be optimistic, and we gonna win games, bro.
All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Big Douglas Show. I'm excited to welcome Josh Taylor to the show. Josh, what's happening, buddy?
It's good, Doug. It's been a while. I was actually thinking about it today. I was playing basketball. I was like, when's the last time I was actually making Doug's show? And it was actually at the Senior Bowl. It's been a while.
Yeah, that's right. That has been a while. You know, it was funny. There's been a couple of folks on the pod recently that it was like that way. You know, it was like, oh gosh, I didn't realize it had been quite that long.
Time flies.
What have you been up to?
Like I was telling you, man, I've been down in Austin, Texas since middle of May. It was miserable summer. I was like 100 plus every single day, but like the last few days has been 75 and it's been the best I've ever felt in my life. But it's great down here, man. Just keeping up with this team, doing stuff on Bleacher Report for them pretty much full time, while doing my stuff for my channel, JTFB. Check it out. And then writing some articles and stuff like that too, and then getting my real estate license just so I can do that on the side and still be able to, like, you know, pursue what I want to.
Yeah.
To afford this passion of flying back and forth to Virginia and watching these games and such.
I know. When are you going back up again? You got plans?
Yeah, so I'll be at the Giants game. I was thinking about just staying here and going to Dallas for the Thanksgiving game, but I was like, man, I have to experience some kind of fall this season. We're not going to get it here in Texas. And I just see my family, spend Thanksgiving with them. I might as well. I'd rather spend it there than Jerry's World, honestly. So I'm going to come back and watch the Giants game at home, which I think is on the 19th. And then just stay for like a week or so and just hang out with some family and stuff like that. So I'll probably go to 2 more games this season, at least that one, and then maybe one at the end of the season. Definitely not the 49ers game. So
no, man, they looked good last night. Yeah, I'm hoping to get up for the Eagles game. Let's talk about it. Were you surprised by that game last night? I mean, they came out and put it on them. That 49ers team is legit.
So honestly, I wasn't surprised. Like all of like the bets and everything I was placing last night was mainly, you know, Ayuk yards, Brock Purdy completions and yards and stuff like that. And then of course Christian McCaffrey scoring. It's just, and I don't want to downplay the Cowboys defense because they do have some key, you know, big time injuries. They still do have a Micah Parsons that, you know, he'd be a generational type player in any kind of defense, where you put him on a line or if you'd play him as a traditional linebacker or whatever. He's that good. But it's just, like, we know who Dak is, and you're not going to surprise me. There's nothing he's going to do that's like, oh man, that's a big boy throw. I think the best Dak that I've ever seen was at Mississippi State as an Alabama fan. I remember a couple games where he was throwing 300, 400 yards on those really good Alabama defenses. So like, I respect Dak, but I just feel like right now it looks like more of like a mental thing for Dak. He's just not 100% there right now.
What happened to the guy that got paid? Because I actually liked him the first couple of years in the league and thought, okay, this is gonna work, and it was. Is it? You think it's mental?
I mean, I think so, and I don't think that Trey Lance coming in has like a big hit either. But I think it just shows, like, as a person, if someone brings in like my replacement, like in the waiting, kind of like, it's also kind of disrespectful too. Like, I get like they didn't trade something crazy for him, but still, if you're Dak, you're like, what are you doing? Like, if you really wanted to keep a replacement, you should have kept, you know. Like, we have Cooper Rush, whatever, like, who did really good when he was out. So, like, I don't know. It just kind of felt weird. Their offseason moves never really make that much sense. And then CeeDee Lamb's pissed right now. The last few games, like, he's not with the team on the bench at all. And he's, like, throwing his hands up, you know, like, sopping around on the field. You know, I have a lot of friends that cover the 49ers and the Cowboys. And I find, like, these little things throughout the week and stuff like that. It's just noticeable that CeeDee Lamb's not happy there, which is crazy. You know, they gave him the 88. Like, he wanted to go there. He's proud to wear that 88 jersey. He loves it. But he's not happy. And I think it's mostly because of the play calling, but then also Dak's just not getting it done. And I'm not saying Ezekiel Elliott was that good either, but you kind of put all your eggs in one basket with a hurt Tony Pollard, who really isn't doing anything like crazy in the running game right now either. But I think that also kills you. That you have no like throwing threat. You go get Brandon Cooks, who I think is underrated. They're not really using him much. Like, he gets a lot of targets and stuff like that, but the production is not there. So it just seems like a team that has a lot that they can use, kind of like us. It's just not clicking. Now, they're not as bad as we are right now. I'm not going to say that. But it's just like something is going on. I don't know if it's like an internal thing, if it's a mental thing with everybody, but it's just, I don't know. Dallas does not look pretty right now. Like, I get like you beat the Giants and stuff like that, but it's just when it comes down to the good teams, they're not going to look good.
Yeah, and it's all because it feels like going back to Mike McCarthy was a step back in time, right? Like it felt like Kellen
Yeah.
Moore had something interesting to provide, and I'm not sure what happened there, but well, we've seen the McCarthy offense, and it was Aaron Rodgers and thanks, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you want to talk about a young offensive minded coach, something that I feel like we've gotten with Eric Bieniemy. Not saying he's like Kevin O'Connell when he was here or something like that, but he's a younger, it's a refreshing offensive mind. I think Kellen Moore provided that. I think the offense was better with Kellen Moore. I just think he was like the scapegoat of like, oh, we're not winning games. Who's to blame? Let's blame Kellen Moore. And then McCarthy's like, oh, I'm going to take over. I know how to run this offense. And it feels like such an old fashioned offense now, like kind of like with Jack Del Rio and his defense, like what I'm sure we'll talk about. But it's just like in today's NFL, you have to have that young, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel. You have to have that someone that's going to think outside the box and do something different. And it's just not clicking right now with Dallas, which I'm fine with. That's good.
Yes, I think we can all agree on that one. Well, let's get to it. Interesting news out of Ashburn today. 2 safeties go down for the Commanders.
Yeah.
Derek Forrest went down, which is a tough blow to the defense. And, of course, the standout Jeremy Reeves for special teams. Interesting with Derek Forrest. I don't know that he was having, like, this breakout. Like, he kind of broke out last year, and I think maybe we thought he'd build on that a bit more, would be that true sideline-to-sideline free safety. I'm not saying he can't do that. I'm just saying he wasn't getting there. Either which way, tough blow for the defense. They'll have to rely on Percy Butler a whole lot more. And then Quan Martin finally may get some playing time, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. Very interesting. What are your thoughts about the losses there at safety?
I mean, I think what they say with Forrest, it was like was it a fractured shoulder or something? What they say?
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, they both go in the IR, so it's at least 4 games. Which is a big blow because this is a pretty important stretch where like these are games we have to win with the Falcons, the Giants, the Eagles, Patriots. I want to say is the next 4. So like in my opinion, you have to win 2 of those. I want to say 3 of them are winnable. The Patriots, Giants, and Falcons should be winnable games, but they're not after Thursday. So like those are big, and the secondary is already bad. And I've seen a couple people like talk about it on Twitter, like. Does Washington have a true free safety, or do we just have like 3 strong safeties / like box safeties that we just kind of rotate and deploy everywhere? And the thing is with Derek Forrest last year, he showed flashes like, hey, I can be your free safety. I can play single high.
I thought so.
He showed that. And for some reason, it's just not there. And like I go back to like that Marvin Mims touchdown. I don't know what he was doing. Everyone's playing zone except him. He plays man. And he bites down, and Percy Butler's looking back like, where are you? Like, you're not in your high zone. Like, I'm on my side. I'm trying to come all the way over here to Marvin Mims because you're way down playing on like a tight end or somebody. So it's just like, I don't know. I don't know what's changed for him from last season to now. And it's still early. I get it. But then him going down, it's just Percy Butler hasn't looked good either. And he's supposed to be a free safety kind of guy. Like Chris Sims said, it was his top free safety. It's Chris Sims, though. He also said like Trey Lance was the best quarterback in that draft class. He said Kellen Mond was like number 2 or 3 or something. I don't know. And he was a quarterback, so he should know that. But he said that was his number 1 free safety prospect. Like, I get it. It's another late round guy that we feel like we can do something with that can be good. But I haven't seen it out of him. And it's concerning. And I think Cam's been fine this year. I don't think Cam's been like what I expected, like pay me Cam Curl caliber. And I've said it pretty much every game. Like, our safety play has not been good, whether it's missing tackles, whether it's miscommunication, whether it's just blown coverages, like big plays happening over the top. Like, we're not used to that happening with these guys that we've had the last few seasons. Like, especially last year, I feel like, Forrest was getting interceptions. Cam Curl's been trying to get some. Percy Butler's been in the mix. And then we add 2 DBs in the first 2 rounds that are supposed to help us get that. So I think it's a big loss. I've wanted to see more Reeves like on defense, just because I feel like he's one of the smaller. He should be more of the rangier guys. I mean, his job on special teams is to be the first guy down the field, so he should have that speed, and he does. So you lose both of those guys. So your special teams takes a hit, your defense takes a hit. But now we should finally see Quan Martin, who we haven't seen except for preseason, and it didn't look good. then it looked good, then it looked bad again. So I don't know. I'm so confused with this defense. But losing those two guys doesn't help at all, especially for at least 4 games. Forrest is probably gonna be out for
with the fractured shoulder, it sounds like the season or most of it, I would imagine.
yeah. I mean, I would say at least 7-8 games is like the
Yeah.
minimum.
It's just I know we've had this conversation before, and I'll ask again. It's odd the slow starts that the franchise always has, certainly under Rivera. And on defense, the offense I get. I think most of us can figure out it's a young quarterback with a new system, basically a new offensive line, and for all intents and purposes, a first-time play caller. But on defense now, most of these guys have been together 3-4 years at least. I think there's only one new starter on defense, and that's at the linebacker, which is a totally different discussion.
That's ugly.
But I mean, what is it about the defenses that they start off so slow, and we're kind of back to this thing where we're asking corners to do what they don't do well, getting into this man system when that's not, and then eventually they'll just get out of it and get back to the zone that works so well for them, and everybody starts playing better. Why do we have to wait so long for them to get back to what it is they do well?
And I kind of go back to what Deron Payne said after, I think it was the third game. I think it was the Bills game. When they asked him, like, why does the team, like more specifically the defense, start slow? And he said, well, I can speak for myself. He said, me, it's kind of like, you're in a fight. The first, few rounds, you're not just going out there swinging, like, being reckless, because you don't want to give up a big play or you don't want to get knocked out in a fight. You're kind of feeling out, you're throwing some jabs out there, seeing what your range is like, seeing like, their movement and stuff like that. It's the same thing for linemen. You want to see what technique they're doing. You want to see where they're putting their hands, how they're approaching you. Are they able to get contact on you first? What's their anchor like? There's so much to it. And he said, I just have to do a better job of getting to that point where I'm comfortable knowing how to attack them and not taking so long, not taking a whole first half, being so conservative in that first half. And I feel like the whole defense is like that. It's so conservative, so like passive. It's not that aggressive like that 49ers defense where people are confident in what they're doing. I think that's a big thing. I don't think the players are 100% confident in what they're doing, whether it's scheme, play calling, whatever, or what's going on behind them. Like if I'm on the D line, I don't have much confidence in my linebackers, if I'm being honest. Of course, the players aren't going to say that. But then like same with corners. I'm like, if we're not getting a solid pass rush like consistently, I've got to stay in this route for 4 or 5 seconds. That's hard to do. So I just feel like the people aren't clicking, but I think it's mostly because they're just not confident in what they're doing, not their abilities. But I think it comes down to how we're approaching other offenses. And the Bears, like, think about it. They know how slow we start. They had the nerves to win the toss and take the ball first. Okay. How often they said it on the broadcast, 95% of teams defer. Like that was an actual stat. Like they said, like around like the 95 range, teams do not take the ball first. But they said, no, this team starts slow, especially on defense. Our offense is not that good. We're going to get the ball and we feel confident that we can move down the field on them. Like that right there is so telling to me.
It's frustrating. And it needn't be. Then they're not getting what you brought up is the biggest point, I think, for the whole defense to me is they're not getting home with 4 anymore. And they did a really good job with that, which allows you to drop everybody into coverage. So I guess I'll ask this question. As odd as it sounds, and I know people hate hearing this, Chase Young is leading in most statistical categories at this point, even having missed the first couple of games. Fact remains, it feels like something happens to that line when he comes back. Particularly, it feels like with John Allen. I don't feel like we hear about him at all, hardly. Am I crazy to think that something happens when Chase Young comes back? Because it's not like you don't want him on the field. I mean, you can see he's explosive this year. You can see the athleticism, but something happens as a group when he's back.
I say yes, but then I say no at the same time because you can remember plays where Chase is on the field. He's making a difference. Like regardless, we need to get to the quarterback. It's some way. So I feel like, and people are saying like, yeah, he's a freelancer. Like he kind of just does his own thing out there. And to a certain extent, like that's fine. Like whatever it takes to get home. But what they tell you as an edge rusher, like it doesn't matter who you are. You can be the best in the business or you can be a rookie. Like, you have to play the run on the way to the quarterback. If you're not doing that, then you're pretty much worthless as an edge defender because you're either going to get a sack or you're going to give up a big play. To me, it's not worth it. Like, yeah, sack's big, but if I can't rely on you to, stop the run, I mean, think about like the Lions game last year, so bad. One of the first games of the season, gosh, they were running all over. If DeAndre Swift had like a career day on us, but it was because we could not stop the run at the line. Like the lanes were wide open, and it happens with Chase and John Allen on his side. But I think there has to be better communication with those two. Because if you go back to the Swift touchdown against the Eagles this year that everyone was looking at, Chase Young goes wide, John Allen goes inside, he tries to win inside, Forbes is out of position, Barton was out of position, the lane's wide open, Swift just walks in the end zone. I feel like, yes, you don't know how you're going to attack every single rep until it happens, but at the same time, you have to like communicate back and forth with each other. Like, hey, if I'm going inside and you're going outside, we have to make sure we have help behind us, or that's just a wide open lane. So I don't mind it. I don't think Chase makes the defense or the defensive line worse with him being out there, but they have to communicate better. And I said something yesterday. I went back and watched the Bears game last night during Sunday Night Football.
Bless you.
Washington, yeah, that was bad. But I was like, how many times was Washington? Because I watched football literally all day yesterday, from breakfast until my TV died, and then I got it by halftime. Then I watched the games the rest of the day. How many times does Washington actually do stunts and stuff like that on the defensive line? How often?
Never, and it felt like something they did last year.
And it was. And I watched the Bears game. We did it 3 times. And you know who did it all 3 times? Daron Payne and Montez Sweat. And you know what came out of it? The first big throw to DJ Moore. Then there was another big throw. I think it was DJ Moore again on the right side where Forbes like just missed tackled, like had no interest in tackling him. And then the touchdown to DJ Moore over Kendall Fuller where he was like extended out. That was the 3 times we did it. And it did nothing. And the thing is, like, Sweat, like Daron Payne and him would switch, but literally the linemen were just like, okay. Like, we just picked him right back up. And when you watch other teams, specifically like 3-4 defense, where you have an outside linebacker, like a speedy guy, not like a giant Montez Sweat, what happens is the D tackle will take the guard and block him into like the tackle to where he's holding up those 2 guys, and it gives a wide open lane for that outside guy to come around and just have a lane right up the middle. And we don't do that. It's just like Payne and Sweat, and then they just switch, and then they just get blocked. And it's like, that's it. But it takes.
Because it felt like last year it was Allen and Payne that would do a lot of the stunting and twisting.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm curious to see if Washington will do this more, is like in the middle of the line. Because like I think Daron Payne's having some success this year, and the numbers aren't there for Allen, but he's getting pressures. Like, he's still getting like big stops and stuff like that. But I want to see them both get to the quarterback more, like we have the last 2 seasons. So if Chase Young's going to do his thing on the outside and like go wide, go whatever, fine. Then at least do those 2 in the middle. But John Allen and Chase Young never do it, which I feel like it'd be more successful because John Allen's better at just taking up those 2 blockers. And I think Chase Young's quicker than Montez Sweat when it is like getting to the inside. Because Chase, he loves to stand up. He's been doing a lot more like 3-point stances this year, but he loves just standing up, kind of hovering over like Micah does, and then like cutting inside or outside. But if he can do that on a stunt and like go inside, then I feel like Washington would have a lot more better chances. And people are saying blitz with linebackers, do this. Like, honestly, I don't want to take somebody out of the secondary when they're getting burned this bad.
Yeah.
Like,
and the blitzes haven't been getting home really either. Because it was funny in like the third game. I remember one of the keys that I brought up before the game was we've got to start blitzing. Design blitzes, we need them.
Something.
But they haven't worked either. So I mean, I'm not really sure what there is. Otis there in the comments brought up the secondary. Is it the secondary, or the fact that the linebacker play has just been atrocious? And we knew it'd be bad. I can't imagine they didn't know it'd be bad. And maybe they really did think that the secondary would be good enough to make up for whatever deficiencies it is that they have at linebacker. But Jamin Davis is not a middle linebacker, and frankly, neither is Cody Barton.
No, Cody Barton's not even a linebacker. It's so like basic football. But it starts in the trenches. Because if you can get pressure on a quarterback, like just going back to the Bears game, Justin Fields, there's no reason he should have that much time.
That's right.
I mean, The pockets that
That
he had.
line is awful.
They were down like 3 starters. Tevin Jenkins, that was his first game back.
Oh, that's right.
That's bad. And then their center goes down at halftime almost, and you could not tell. That's one thing I said on the Bleacher Report stream. I went live right after the game. I said their center went out midway through the game, and I couldn't tell. I was like, did you notice one player where it's like we were getting pressure all of a sudden? What happened? Nothing. They just picked up right where they left off. There was nothing wrong. And that's the thing. Like, our team has been healthy, and we're getting outplayed by backups.
And that team was down Eddie Jackson. That team was down their starting nickel, their starting outside corner. As far as I was told, Brisker was out there on half a hamstring.
Yeah.
Like, it was ridiculous that they couldn't get anything going. And again, the defense, there's just no excuse to me on the defense. There's no chance Jack's going to get fired. Does that frustrate you?
I mean, yeah, it's annoying because we're going to see the same thing. And I will say, beginning of last season, it was the same. Like, we're like giving up 30 points a game. I mean, we're getting blown out by the Eagles, the Lions. Like, it was bad early. And then second half of the season, it just all started clicking, and we finished like a top 5 defense in the league somehow. So I go back to Ron always saying there's a lot of ball left to be played, blah, blah, blah. Like, but why? Why does it take us that long? We put ourselves out of position, and then by the end of the year, we're like, let's make this playoff push, and then we miss it by a game or two. And we always like, I wonder why. We go back to the first 4 or 5 games of the season. It's like, because you lost to the Bears at home when that should have been an easy win.
Yeah.
And then you just go back like, well, we missed the playoffs. We got pick 16 again. Let's do this again, guys. It's the same.
They love pick 16.
It's the same. I mean, I usually do too. Shout out to Jahan. But it's the same cycle. Like, it's just you're doing the same thing every year and just expecting something magically to just be fixed. And I said this during the game too. I miss Chris Harris. Because I feel like he was really good, but I feel like the players like believed in what he was coaching. Like, and you just saw that. You saw how the DBs, because that's what he coached. He was a DB coach here. That you could tell they were playing different under him. Like, I would love to see how this defense and Forbes and Quan Martin would look under Chris Harris this season.
It's interesting. I touch on this a little bit since you brought up Chris Harris. If they had a guy like Chris Harris on the team, I maybe you can move on. First of all, Ron's not going to, right? Because that's just not how he does. Someone's going to have to force him to do that, just like with the offensive coordinator. That's his buddy. But like, who on the so say they fire Jack Del Rio, who calls the defense? I mean, they don't have anybody on the staff other than the head man himself that's called a defense before. So you're really just putting yourself in a bind. Yeah. And if they fire Ron Rivera, I mean, think about what you're doing to EB. People say fire Ron and move EB to, interim head coach. Well, I'll ask you, Josh, you watch a lot of football. When's the last time an interim head coach kept the job? So you talk about not doing EB a favor. Like, please do not fire. If you're an EB fan, then you should hope they do not fire Ron and put EB in there, because it's just a death sentence for him. There's nothing good that can come out of that for Bieniemy.
Yeah, you don't do that.
I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, you don't do that until the season's like officially over. Like, the day you're eliminated from playoffs, though, sure, put EB out there, and just hope you don't have like who was it, Steve Wilkes situation, like where he was at the Panthers. He should have got the job.
He should have got the job.
He didn't, and then I mean, it's just so you don't want that to happen. You don't want the new owners like interviewing a bunch of guys, and then EB's like, "What's going on? Do I get it, or is it going to go to somebody else?" Like, the reason he came here is to eventually be head coach, So I agree with you. Like, who does call the plays if Jack Del Rio's gone? I don't know. But at the same time, it's just like, why are we going to continue to expect something different out of this defense? And I get it. There's some people saying too, like, well, the player's the one that's playing. But if you don't put them in a position to succeed, to do the right things, to like play to their best abilities, then that's on coaching. And I feel like that's who you should, look at first before the players. Obviously, we're not going to just trade Chase Young right now and, not pay Ron Payne and John Allen like we did. Like, that's not ideal. Like, you want to put the pieces in place and figure out what's going on with them. So, but Ron Rivera, I don't want him calling the defense. And I don't want Eric Bieniemy having to do, offensive coordinator / head coaching job at the same
Right.
time.
Again, I mean, yeah, he's never been head coach, so now you can put
Yeah.
more on his plate as he's trying to teach an offense to a young quarterback. Like,
But this has to be the last season, though. There's no way.
Yeah. There's no way.
Ron's not making it out the next season. And like, I hate to say it, Ron's a cool guy, but it's just the new owners, they're not going to want Ron here.
You know how you know Ron wasn't coming back? When Ron told you 6 months ago, whatever it was, 4 months ago, that, hey, if I don't make it through this thing, but I put a roster together that gets the team a Super Bowl, send me a ring. Like, that's what I knew Ron was.
He checked out.
Yeah,
he's already got his cruise for this.
Send me a ring later.
Yeah,
Jeez.
no.
What have you found? What have you thought about Bieniemy so far? I mean, it has not been a Kansas City offense, certainly. At least I don't feel like they haven't used nearly the kind of motion. They do use more motion, I think, definitely than last year, but not the same kind of motion, at least certainly not the same amount. They haven't run nearly the amount of screens that I kind of thought they would. And frankly, I thought Bieniemy would use more of the wide receivers that we have. You know, that game against the Bears, Dotson and McLaurin combined for an 18% target share.
That's bad.
Combined.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel bad for EB because you got to look at the situation he's in every single week. We go down so much. We're playing from behind so much. He just has to like throw away all the
Scott is talking about, now you know how I feel here.
But the thing is, like, what I do love about EB is he doesn't back away from what he wants to call for Sam. Like, he's just like, he's not like, all right, we gotta dumb down the offense. We gotta like pull it back for Sam. He's like, no, like if you're gonna learn, you're gonna learn. You're gonna know how to do this or you're not. But we're down to the Broncos fast, early. We're down to the Bears fast and early. And then the Eagles, like we were behind. Like every single game pretty much this season, except the Cardinals, we've been behind by a good chunk. So that cuts your play calling in half. Like people are like, oh, we need to run the ball more. Are you going to run the ball down 27 or down, what were you, 21?
Yeah, but both the Eagles and the Bills game, they weren't down by more than 10 heading into the fourth quarter.
And
those games were funny.
But then Sam started throwing some interceptions, and then it started. You're not on the field that much. But I feel like he does want to run the ball more. But I'm telling you, man, we are lacking a true home run running back. I love Brian Robinson, but he is not a guy that's gonna like. He's a bruiser, but he's not a Derrick Henry bruiser. Like Derrick Henry's different. That dude's a generational running back. This team, and I'm sure like I talked about with so many people. I wanted Izzy Abanikanda. I wanted Devon Chan. I wanted some kind of elusive back in this offense because I knew I didn't want Antonio Gibson running the ball, 15 or 10, even 10 times a game. He's much better in space. It's just it's a different running back. And this team really lacks a fast, elusive running back. We just keep drafting some of these guys that play the same, like a bruiser guy who's just going to wear down a defense, and that's fine. But those guys are even more effective when you have a fast guy who can he's on the field against a wore-out defense who just got beat up by your bruiser of a running back, and now you have a guy who's just going to fly right past them. It's just that change of pace. It just takes so much out of defenses, and we don't have that.
Well, we do, sort of. I mean, they could be using the jet motion to get Terry. I mean, we've got plenty of guys that run a 4.340.
I don't want Terry doing that.
Well, Jahan Dotson's got the same kind of speed.
Yeah.
They've been doing more of it with Curtis Samuel.
Oh, yeah. I wish they would do more.
Having a much better season. And frankly, I just still don't think they're throwing the ball to Gibson enough. I mean, they're still handing him the ball up the middle of the field, which I think at this point we know is
throw that out.
Suicide.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing about Gibson too. Not one fumble last year, and then it's just like
it's back.
Here we go, I'm back.
I thought he was done with it. I was hyping him up. I was like, "This is gonna be like our Jerick McKinnon this offseason."
I said that all the time. Jerick McKinnon literally was the second in receiving touchdowns last year for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I 9. For sure, that's crazy.
All right, that's right. That's right.
But I would love to see more Curtis Samuel. And I said that before the Bears game. What game did he score on that little? It was like a 1 yard. Was it the Eagles game?
That was the Eagles game. Yeah.
Yeah. Before that game, I was like, look, Gibson keeps fumbling. Like, just take Curtis Samuel back to his Ohio State days. He has the 4 back. Like, might as well throw it all the way back and put him in the backfield as much as you can because he can actually run. And he's actually like hard to take down. I think that's one thing a lot of people don't take into credit. And I think he's starting to get a little bit more respect. Like, at least fantasy people are loving Curtis Samuel right now. But I think us as fans, like, I think Curtis is extremely underrated. He, like I said, like third in mediums, that guy's like automatic. You know he's about to get the ball. Yeah. But he's hard to tackle. He's really shifty. He's more elusive than you expect. Didn't have the best start here with his injuries and stuff like that. But I would love to see more of Curtis in the backfield and then some short throws to him too. But I'm telling you, I think, and it's funny because Ron, I go back to Ron every time. He said it in his offseason, like, oh yeah, we're looking to add a running back. And they invited all these elusive guys. Chris Rodriguez did not get an invite. We didn't look at him. He wasn't someone that, you know, we had a private workout with, a draft visit, nothing like that. We visited. I think we did a visit Devon Chan and Izzy Abanikanda. I'm trying to think who else. Just a bunch of elusive guys. So I'm excited. I'm like, yes, we're finally going to get it. And like, heck no, B-Rob 2.0 and Chris Rodriguez.
And it was interesting. I forget which press conference it was, but Bieniemy says basically they're asking him about something on offense, and he says, you know, I got my fingerprints on the roster as well. Well, there's only so many people that could mean, right? So, I mean, I'm assuming that's the right tackle, and I'm guessing it's Chris Rodriguez and maybe one of the offensive linemen that they took. Any which way you look at it, I don't know that any of those guys were not singles.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, like, I look at this draft class, and Ron said it today. It seems like they are always just preparing for the next year. Like, you think about, we drafted Phil Mathis. When was that? That was the Deron Payne year.
In case Deron left.
And now we draft Quan Martin. What year is it? It's the Cam Curley year.
Yep.
So, like, why are they preparing ahead instead of for this year coming up?
Well, I've said it on the pod several times. I was confused when they drafted Forbes, and that has nothing to do with Forbes. But we have 2 good boundary corners on the roster right now.
But St. Jude's couldn't stay healthy, though, so I wasn't mad at it.
Well, but I guess what I was saying is as soon as I guess since I'm not a believer in St. Jude's in the slot, when you draft Forbes and Kendall damn sure can't play in the slot anymore for whatever reason, then it almost felt like with that second pick, all of a sudden it's like, who's going to play nickel?
Yeah, it should be.
And they didn't have one. I guess it's St. Jude's now, but again, St. Jude's always plays better once they're forced to push him outside, right? I mean, same thing when William Jackson III was here. They kept trying to kick him inside. As soon as they kicked him outside, the whole thing started gelling better. Funny, they're forced into some of these decisions.
Yeah, and a lot of them don't make sense. And like, I hate hearing, oh, we took a guy for depth, or we took a guy just in case. Like I hate going back and looking at how the draft fell. But can you imagine, like, just give me the best player that's on the board. I don't care. Like, if you would have took Brian Branch, you could put him wherever you want to. Safety, nickel, whatever.
That was the guy I wanted in the second round.
Yeah, like, if you're gonna add, if that's your blueprint, then why didn't you get Brian Branch? Why didn't you kick St. Juice outside? And I don't care if you took him at 16 or whatever. He was like, what, pick 32, 31?
No, he went to pick before Quan Martin.
Oh yeah. So, oh gosh, it's even worse. He should have been a first round draft pick. Brian Branch for crying out loud. Roll Tide. But oh man, yeah. The fact he went 1 pick before Quan kills me. Because no, I wanted him so bad. But like, if that's your blueprint, then I'm still questioning a lot of your picks. Why
Brian
did you
Jones went 1 pick before we picked Forbes?
Yeah, like, why did you trade up for KJ Henry,
who won't see the field for 2 years?
Exactly. Like,
why did you take Ricky Stromberg in the 3rd round when you knew he wasn't going to play? Why did you
said he wasn't even ready to start? So it's like, we are like, I fully, and I hate to say this, but especially if Ron's drafting these guys, does Ron think he's going to be here long term to where he's like, these are my guys of the future? I hope not. Like, and I get it. Like, Nick Gates, he isn't some long term. He's not going to be here like as long as Chase Roullier was or anything like that. Like, I think Stromberg will, and like, we both like Ricky Stromberg. But like, if they're not going to contribute right now, what were you doing this whole draft? Like, Forbes is the only guy where I saw like, okay, he's going to start outside. They want him to get interceptions. They want him to be a lockdown corner. Cool. But after that, I was like, Quan Martin, I liked him a lot in college. Not that I didn't like him. I think he's good. But I'm just like, where is he fitting? What's his role? Like, we're going to rotate a lot. We're, 4 games in or 5 games in now, and it's like, I don't see him being used. And then the offensive lineman, it's the same thing. Like, if they're not starter qualities, or if you don't think they're going to be able to start, then, like, what are you doing?
Well, and I've asked the question several times, or at least pondered the idea. I mean, what does it say about Ron Rivera, to your point, like supreme confidence of doing his job to draft guys for the future, or complete stupidity that you're not doing everything you can to select players that could help you win right now and keep your job? That it's that I've been mulling that thing for like weeks now.
Well, the funny thing is, I feel like he did a good job last year, and he still fumbled it. Like,
Right.
you got Sam Howell in the 5th.
Right.
You traded back, got Jahan Dotson, who's really good. You got Brian Robinson, Cole Turner. Like, you built this team really good in that draft last year. Like, congratulations. But you still started Carson Wentz too long. You started Heineke too long. And he even said himself, like, yeah, we just didn't know what we had in Sam. And, I'm glad we had decided to start him for that last game of the season. And like, he earned this start for the whole season this year. Like, it took you, like, you didn't know. Like, we saw in training camp, we saw in preseason, this, like, skill-wise was the best quarterback on the roster. Like, you either thought that Carson Wentz is going to win you a Super Bowl, same with Taylor Heineke, or you just really didn't think that Sam Howell was that good. But you managed to have a really good draft, and you fumbled the whole thing last year. And now this year he's like, oh, well, we're being limited. He said today, like, oh, we have to come into account we have a young quarterback starting.
Yeah, they asked about the draft class, and he included Sam. Sam is not part of this draft class.
No, like, even though, like, I'm treating him like a rookie, like, development-wise,
right?
You should have started him last year, and you didn't.
And you certainly don't get to tack him onto this year's draft.
No, and then he's like patting his back, like, oh yeah, we knew Sam was good. Like, okay. I knew Sam was good. I knew Sam was supposed to start last year, and he didn't. So it's just it's mind blowing. Like, the thought, and that's what bothers me the most as a fan part of this whole thing. I guess, like, as a content guy who, like, actually tries to pay attention to the team and, like, see what they're doing. I don't see a plan. I don't see what it blows my mind of, like, the talent we have. It's not clicking on the field. I look at the draft. I'm like, I don't get what you were trying to accomplish, what holes you were trying to fill, what, contribution you're expecting to get out of these guys. And I said it. I'm not mad at the players. It's not a personal thing towards the players. I'm not booing Emmanuel Forbes. I'm not saying, yo, Forbes, you suck. Go cover the bench, blah, blah, blah. Quan Martin, you suck. No, I'm like, coaches, what was your plan with these guys? If you drafted these guys, you're responsible for their development as coaches, and there's nothing coming out of this right now. So what's going on? And, like, that's that's my stance with it. I'm not mad at the players. Yeah, I get mad when Forbes misses a tackle or gives up a big play or something like that. But I'm like, coaches, what are y'all doing? Are you putting this guy in the right position? You're going man zone. Did he even fit the scheme, or do you just think it was going to be a home run pick and you just expect him to get like 5 pick sixes this year?
Because that's what it felt like. And you're right, they're not using him the way that you would assume he wasn't used in college. I mean, they're asking him to do something different. Oh, have we heard that before? I put this one up here because I think this is interesting. It feels like we're having to check outside, make sure the sky is not falling, right? Because it was just such a nasty loss. But that's really the only loss they've had that I thought that they were going to win, right? So we're only one game off my preseason predictions on where we'd be here right now. So it's like, I guess as we kind of wind down here, Josh, I'm curious, where are you at this point of the season? Because I really think although it was a horrible stumble against the Bears, I really feel like that's the only one we've had that way.
Well, yeah, and, like, the Bears one, like, really just hammers it, like, how bad it was, though. But my thing is, like, if you're gonna bench Forbes, why do you not bench Cody Barton, a guy who is a vet?
Right.
Like, I know he's still young, but from what I've seen out of Cody Barton, especially the last, like, few games, if what Forbes was doing was, benchable, then so is Cody Barton. Like,
They refused to let Khaliki Hudson play.
oh
Just
yeah,
refused.
but between Hudson and Jabril Cox, like,
Yeah, I'd like to see him too.
at least see it. Like, if you're getting blown out, at least put him out there to see what he can do. But that's the thing. If you're not going to change the coaching, cool, whatever. Wait till the end of the season. That's fine. I'm not going to complain about it. But you can't just roll the same thing out there every week and just think it's going to magically click, or just think that something different is going to happen. Like, take Barton off the field. Barton plays almost 100% of every game.
Yes.
He's the one guy that doesn't come off. And look on the back of his helmet. You know what he has? That green dot.
That's right.
That is
And that's
terrifying. That
It
is
is.
terrifying. That the worst player on the field is the guy who's responsible for communications.
And if it's not him, it's Cam Curl, I guess. And
Cam's had the dot before.
He's had the dot before, and they've given it to Jamin, but Jamin plays much better when he doesn't have to.
Yeah, just let him
listen to the green.
And I don't think Jamin's been that bad. Maybe he's had like 1 or 2 bad games this season, but I think last year he was actually good. And I think he's had some big moments this year, like, the fumble against the Broncos, hitting Russ, that turned things around for us. Like, I think he's better stopping the run. I think he's better in coverage than Cody Barton is. But I think it also doesn't help Jamin's job that he has such a liability at linebacker next to him.
Yeah, they swore he was ready to go. Barton, they were excited.
I thought he was. I was hyped for him.
Adam Aniba, who's on the show all the time, liked him too coming out of there and thought maybe he was ready to take the next step. He took less money to come here to wear that green dot.
Yeah, because I remember like looking into Seattle, their Sports Illustrated writer, I can't remember who he is, but he was like saying that people were mad that they lost him because like he started out kind of slow last year, but the second half of the season he was really good for Seattle. He had like 2 interceptions, he had a forced fumble, he was really good in coverage. They were blitzing with him, everything. Like he looked like a legit linebacker with them. They're like, man, I don't see how you let this one get away. Blah blah blah. And they're doing fine without him. And we're sucking with them, so I don't think they're too mad right now.
Why do you think they didn't just keep 55?
To be honest, and this is people are gonna hate me for this too, but I don't think Cole Holcomb was that good either. I think Cole was a huge liability in the run. He had a couple moments like the interception against like the Cowboys and stuff like that. But like I remember watching so many games last year, like all 22, like especially that Lions game in the run. Cole Holcomb was really bad. So I think they knew they had to upgrade from Cole. I don't know what the Steelers paid Cole. But I think Cole,
it wasn't much.
No, it wasn't much. Like they easily could have done it, but I think they desperately wanted to upgrade the position. And like I know he's a fan favorite, whatever. I like Cole a lot too. He's like cool. He's like friends with one of my guys, Mac from Alabama. I actually went hunting with like him and Theo Vaughn in the off season. So Cole's a cool guy. Like I have nothing against Cole, but he was such a liability on defense, and they just knew they had to upgrade. And I wish they would have, like Jack Campbell or someone like this, someone in that draft that it's just crazy. All these guys look good in college, and we're like, man, that's what we need here. And then we're like, Ron Rivera and them's like, no, we're gonna go a different route. We're gonna get a 3rd string lineman here, guys. We're gonna take another
developmental center.
Yeah, we're gonna get this. We're gonna get a running back that's not gonna play.
or the greatest of them all, the long snapper. How many of the offensive linemen are good enough to make it on next year's roster?
I think we replace one. I think Sadiq's good. And that's the one that I've been so wrong on. I was like, Sadiq's gonna suck. He's gonna be the worst on our team. He's gonna get hurt week 1. We're gonna be right back in the same boat. It's gonna be a Chris Paul show. And he's been great. He's been our best lineman. And I'd say Cosme has been 2. Nick Gates has been hit or miss. I love that he's ready to kill somebody after every play, but there's been some. He's had some rough moments too, whether it's been pass protection or run blocking. He's given up some bad plays. And like Leno, I give Leno a ton of crap too. I think with Leno, it's going to be more of like salary wise, and then he's getting up in there in age too. So like obviously the dream pick for me is like a Olu Fashanu, Joe Alt, Graham Barton, one of those left tackles of the future.
Those guys aren't making it to 15.
No, but shoot, if you want to be aggressive, trade up and get one of them guys, man.
Yes.
Like please. Especially when you have guys like Brock Bowers, Marvin Harrison Jr. You never know. Olu could drop to like 5 somehow, and then Joe Alt could be like 8 or 9. You just never know. There's a lot of good players in this draft where you just won't take them. And so I think Leno would be the guy that goes. Obviously, Wiley's going to stay. Like you just paid him what was a 3-year deal?
Yes.
I think it was a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything crazy.
No, it's probably, I think the first 2 guaranteed with a with an option.
Yeah, but I don't see him going anywhere. And then Sam Cosmi obviously has been really good at right guard. He's young. So if anything, like maybe Schomburg looks really good, he would start over Gates, and you feel okay letting Gates go. And then same with Leno. If you can get a replacement, though, like don't think Braden Daniels is about to start at left tackle next season. Like, please, God, no. But it all comes down, like, once again, are they going to actually draft the guys that we are clamoring for all season? Like, give me Olu, give me Joe, give me Graham, like one of these guys. Now, I promise you, we won't draft them.
Hopefully by that time there'll be somebody new doing the drafting. Do you have any that stand out that you like, the idea of who you'd like running the show next?
I see Rio. He's been talking about what's his name at Kansas City? I can't remember his name.
He's the number 2 behind Veach. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So like obviously someone like that. Even with the Lions, I forgot his name too. But you just have to look at who can actually draft and develop guys. I'll look at Detroit. I'll look at Philly. Like how aggressive they are. Like I wish we were that aggressive. I'm not saying it always works out. Sometimes it bites you in the foot. But if you're Philadelphia, like even getting Jalen Hurts in the second, like you have to go back that far. It worked out for them. Like trading for DeAndre Swift for like beginning of the season, like, oh, this looks stupid. They're not even using him. And now he's a really important piece of that team.
Yeah, imagine that.
Somehow getting one of your Georgia Bulldogs, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, all of Nolan. Yeah, so I mean, it's just like they are aggressive and they draft really good players. Like surprise, it works.
Miami's another one. I think that's got front office people.
Oh yeah, same thing. Like I know he's not playing right now, but like imagine adding Jalen Ramsey, a healthy.
I was just thinking. It's funny you said that. I was just thinking that the other day. Like this team doesn't even have Ramsey on it right now.
No one talks about it. They completely forget about it. They have a lot of injuries on their secondary. I want to say too. But yeah, you look at those teams like young. Once again, we go back to those young-minded guys who are open to new things. They're not stuck in their ways. They realize like what the NFL is right now and what it takes to win. I just want to win. Like I just want to make it a playoff run. And I don't care if it sets us back a year or two after that. Like go all in. You have a rookie quarterback right now. That is such a luxury. You have a rookie quarterback who costs you nothing. And he's good. Yep. So go all in. Go, and I don't care if it's a free agent or you're trading up in the draft to get your left tackle of the future. That's going to be a Trent Williams for years to come. Like if we have pick 15, trade up to number 5 and get Olu Fashanu. I do not care. Like trade whatever it takes. Yep. You might as well. You have to go all in. You have to be more aggressive instead of trading up to get a long snapper, trading up to get a third rotational edge rusher that's never active on game day. Like that's not aggressive. Yeah. So I think it comes down to that. And with new owners, they're going to want to be. Oh, like if Magic Johnson's already saying stuff with his like game day posts, like that's not the team that we are.
It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Also, I'm always amazed that Magic Johnson is a part owner of my favorite football team. I couldn't tell you that I ever thought that was going to be on the checklist. But
the first time ever, I met Magic Johnson one time, and it was actually funny story, but actually like Michigan State basketball. They helped me pass math in 7th grade. I've been a fan ever since. It was when they got blown out to North Carolina in the NCAA tournament, in the championship. Yep. Blown out by North Carolina. It's terrible. But I had to make a bracket and predict we had to fill out brackets, and whoever had the best bracket, like points wise, like our worst grade would go from whatever it is to 100. And I just remember I went and I watched them, like, I forgot where I was at, like Chili's or something with my family. And they were playing in the Big Ten tournament. I was like, man, this Michigan State team's pretty good. I've never watched college basketball before. And I picked them in North Carolina in the championship. And sure enough, it happened. And I hated North Carolina, though. No one likes North Carolina, Duke, especially if you live in Virginia. So I picked them, but I was actually at the Elite Eight game where it was Duke and Michigan State. It was Zion's last game, and we upset them in DC. And I just remember like going down on the court afterwards, like everyone's celebrating stuff. And Magic Johnson, Michigan State alumni, super involved with the team and stuff, was right there. And I like dapped him up. I was like Magic, like, dude, I cannot believe I'm talking to you. Like, such a cool guy, just like interacting with the fans and stuff. Like, how he is with us right now is exactly how he was then. And that was like, what, 4 years ago, 5 years ago? Gosh, I can't remember. Like I said, Zion Williams' last game.
Yeah. Okay.
But such a good game. He's just such a cool guy. Like, and that's what we've been wanting. Someone, I mean, Josh is too. He's a little weird. He's a little awkward. I am too, so it's okay. But like that social aspect, like involving the fans, just being a fan yourself too, like being passionate about the game. I mean, I just remember Magic being on the court, like running around, like he acted like he just won the game himself. Like, so like I love that passion that he brings to this team. So I'm just saying, like, if we're not winning and things look bad in the offseason, like, don't be surprised if there are big changes, which is something we haven't actually like had as a possibility for so long.
All right, Bubba, what do you got coming up on the channel this week?
I'm gonna do a preview. I'll go live Thursday night with the Falcons game. I thought about going to Atlanta, but I hate that stadium. It's a nice stadium, but like the atmosphere is just bad. Like Falcons fans are so bad. There's no home field advantage. There's nothing exciting. Great stadium though.
Georgia, you know that Georgia are Georgia fans, not Atlanta fans, really.
Oh wait, that's their pro team. Yeah, just like Alabama, even though they don't have a pro team. So I'll do that. Then I'll have some more streams for Bleach Report. Pretty much after every game, I'm going live immediately on the Bleach Report app. And then doing some streams like the next few days after that, like winners, losers, stock risers, stuff like that. So, and then like I said, on YouTube, just follow me, JTFB, and then on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, at Josh Taylor FB, see it on the bottom of the screen. So a lot of good things. It's still early. We got a lot of ball.
That's right. As Ron would say.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back and watch the film too after every game.
Keep killing it, buddy. You're doing great things, man.
Appreciate it. You too, Doug.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks. Yep.